Part 156. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1561. Tang Tang stayed in the hospital in Xianghai for a week, and then returned to Qingjiang City with Gu Liang. It was still late autumn when she was kicked out of the Gu residence. At this time, it was already the 12th lunar month of winter. As far as the eye can see, it is snow-capped, cold and crystal clear. Such heavy snow is rare in southern cities. The servants in the courtyard of Gu's house were clearing the snow, the aisle was cleaned up, and snowdrifts of different sizes were piled up on both sides, like small hills. Tang Tang was very pleasantly surprised. After getting off the car, she was about to jump over to play in the snow, but Gu Liang grabbed her by the collar and carried her back to her room. The room was warm, and when she was helping her undress, sweat dripped from the tip of her nose, her eyes were still shining brightly looking at the snow outside the window, and she murmured, "It's so white, I want to eat ice cream." Gu Liang scratched her nose, beware of catching a cold. Her wound has not healed yet, and it is very troublesome to put on and take off her clothes, especially when she wears sleeves. If she scratches a little, her face will turn pale with pain. However, Tang Tang could bear the pain better than ordinary people. Gu Liang found that every time she shed tears, she was either wronged or pretended to be wronged. She had never seen her cry in pain. Of course, being able to bear the pain does not mean that she is not afraid of pain. Gu Liang changed her into looser home clothes, and then went to the cloakroom to see what other clothes Tang Tang could wear. When I walked in, I saw more than half of the place was empty, and then I remembered that last time I was so angry that I asked the servant to throw away all her things. I feel very uncomfortable. He sighed slightly, came back to make a phone call, and ordered his servants to bring over some clothes, preferably in the style of a cloak, so that he would save the need to wear sleeves. Hanging up the phone, I found that there was no one in the room. I was suspicious, and I saw a big bulge from the floor-to-ceiling curtain. Gu Liang laughed, walked over and opened the curtains, and saw her lying by the window, poking the snow on the windowsill outside with her fingers. "You're disobedient." He stretched out his hand to close the window. "Your resistance is weak now, and you catch colds easily. I'll let you play in the snow when your body recovers." Tang Tang pouted, "When I recover, the snow will definitely melt." Gu Liang thought to himself, it would be a big deal to buy a snow machine. Seeing her pouting her lips, she couldn't help teasing her again, "Let's just melt, just take good care of your body for a year, and it will snow again next winter." Tang Tang's eyes widened, "You want people to wait for a year?" Gu Liang couldn't help but pinch her face with a smile. In the end, the two each backed down a step, and Gu Liang allowed Tang Tang to play in the snow, but only in the house. But the room was warm. Tang Tang had just rolled a big snowball, and it didn't take long before it turned into a tennis ball, and after a while, it turned into a table tennis ball, and finally turned into a white sesame seed, which turned into water. She was furious. There is no way to make a snowman like this. Gu Liang smiled and said nothing. She snorted and muttered unhappily, "When it snowed in the past, Mu Zhenning would make snowmen for others. Gu Liang is the most stingy." Gu Liang. He suddenly felt that what Mu Zi said was right. He really spoiled this guy. Tang Tang continued to feel dejected. "If Mu Zhenning knew that I was missing a hand, he would definitely make a snowman to cheer me up." At #%UN hashtag. Gu Liang got up angrily, and strode out. 2 hours later. All the snow inside and outside the Gu house was gathered together, and with the frozen fountain as the base, Gu Liang led people to build a snowman that was almost taller than a tree. Tang Tang screamed excitedly. Gu Liang asked her, "Whose snowman is bigger?" Gu Liang's snowman is big. Gu Liang asked her, "Am I petty?" "Not stingy. Gu Liang is the best to me, not stingy at all, Tang Tang threw herself into his arms with a smile. I like Gu Liang the most. She grabbed his hand with red palm, put it on her flushed cheek, and flattered him sweetly. Gu Liang, let me warm your hand for you. Gu Liang looked at her quietly, like a stove in her heart, warm as spring. Temporary promotion, I am very excited. Opportunities like this are rare and must be maximized. So I'm going to start the chapter push. Yusa sees bad ruffian wife, go to bed with hands tied, keywords, funny, sweet pet, present words, scammer. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1562. When the new year was approaching, two unexpected guests came to the house. One of them is Tang Tang's old acquaintance, Huang Logui. Another person claimed to be Taoist master Miao Qing, and said he was a Taoist priest of Baiyun Temple on Yangtze Mountain. Tang Tang hated Taoist priests so much, if she didn't worry about Huang Logui taking her cat away, she wouldn't be willing to come out to meet people. But the black cat doesn't seem to miss her, it has been nestling on Huang Logui's belly, wagging its tail leisurely. It's understandable when you think about it. Huang Logui takes care of eating, drinking, and loosing, and even sleeps on a sofa, not to mention wandering outside with Huang Logui for more than a month. The relationship is naturally deeper than with Tang Tang. Pets are very real, they will kiss whoever feeds them. Gu Liang's attention was more focused on Taoist Miao Qing. This man wore a Taoist priest's black hat and a long beard, but he didn't wear a Taoist robe. He was wearing a Chinese-style double-breasted cotton coat and cotton shoes. The color was a bit old, clean, and tidy, and spotless. Compared with the original fake Taoist priest, this Taoist priest is actually a bit ugly, and even his temperament is very plain, not awe-inspiring. According to Huang Logui, Taoist Miao Qing is his former senior brother, but he looks younger than Huang Logui and much thinner. He said, "The poor Taoist is traveling far away, and I came across this junior brother selling cats outside. I saw something extraordinary about this cat, so I asked him about it, and only then did I know about your wife." Tang Tang immediately raised her brows, and stared at Huang Logui. "You want to sell my cat? Why don't you change your mind?" Huang Logui seemed very honest, bowed his head and remained silent. He didn't know whether he was afraid of Tang Tang, senior brother, or both. Tang Tang looked at Miao Qing beside him, and said bluntly, "Old Taoist priest, what do you want to do at my house?" The other party had a good attitude, and said calmly, "Evil is the source of chaos. Even if you want to be good, you can't find all the evil in the world. Why don't you come to my Yangtze mountain, listen to the bells and drums, and chanting scriptures? Self-cultivation is the right way." Tang Tang frowned, fell silent for a moment, and muttered, "Are you speaking human language? You can't understand a single word." Miao Qing smiled helplessly, and looked at old ghost Huang beside her. "Junior brother, although you are no longer in the sect, you are still half a monk, you can persuade her." Only then did Huang Logui raise his head, and took a quick glance at Tang Tang. Cough, cough, he means that you are very talented, it would be a pity not to become a Taoist priest in Yangtze Mountain. Gu Liang's face was ugly. "Master Taoist, are you persuading my wife to become a monk in front of me?" Miao Qing said with a smile, "Mr. Gu, your wife is not an ordinary person, she has too much ferocity, and if she doesn't get rid of it, it will be a disaster every day. Inviting her to Yangtze Mountain is to resolve her anger and prevent future troubles." Huang Logui then echoed, "The vicious spirit of the evil god will indeed affect the surrounding environment. Even if she does nothing, disasters will easily happen to people or places near her. If people with evil intentions touch seeing her will cause even more trouble." Tang Tang said angrily, "According to what you said, I was the one to blame for what happened on the boat." Huang Logui sneered, "It seems that it doesn't matter, but everything in the universe is interconnected, and people can still feel the stars in the sky, right? It's like a street, if it is always shrouded in haze, people passing by will easily fall down. Of course, you can also think that he walked carelessly, but the probability of falling will indeed increase due to the haze. You are the shadow, Tang Tang scolded angrily, since I'm with you, nothing good has happened. Gu Liang asked Miao Qing, if we go to Yangzia Mountain, how long will it take to dissolve her hostility? Gu Liang, Tang Tang grabbed him nervously. Gu Liang patted her lightly and gave her a soothing look. Taoist Master Miao Qing said kindly, the minimum is 3 years, and the maximum is 10 years. The specifics depend on her good fortune. This is my good friend, Zyaka's quick transmigration raiders, blackened female supporting girls need to be whitewashed, keywords, fake brothers and sisters, sick and delicate, blackened, favored alone. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1563. 3 years. 10 years. Tang Tang shouted angrily, I won't go. I won't go. She turned her head to look at Gu Liang, with tears in her eyes, I don't want to go to the mountains to practice. That place is deserted and boring, with no food, drink, or cartoons, I will die. I will really die. Gu Liang hugged her shoulders and asked Taoist Master Miao Qing, if you can try it in 3 to 5 months, these 10 years, isn't it too long? Huang Logui lowered his head and whispered to Miao Qing who was beside him, Senior brother, you must think clearly, if you really get her to the Baiyun temple, she will definitely be in trouble. Taoist Miao Qing did not make things difficult for others. Hearing this, he took out a scripture from his satchel and gently placed it in front of Gu Liang. Here is a copy of the Sutra of Saving People, which is also called Yuanqi Infinitely Saving People's Top Grade Miao Jing. Immortals are precious to life, and immeasurable people. Copying scriptures and chanting every day can affect viciousness. Then he took out another scripture and placed it next to the book just now. This is the Sutra of Purity and Tranquility, also known as the Sutra of Everlasting Tranquility said by the Supreme Lord. Remember to recite it every morning to clarify your mind and calm your mind. Tang Tang's face was ugly, staring at the scriptures, she pursed her lips tightly and said nothing. Miao Qing looked at her with a smile, and said, if it's been a long time and you feel tired, you can also read and write the Tao Te Ching, and you will benefit endlessly. Tang Tang's expression became even uglier, I hate writing the most. Gu Liang patted her head and coaxed, I'll write with you. Taoist Miao Qing said again, there is one more thing to discuss with Mr. Gu. He picked up the cat from Huang Logui's arms and pinched the cat's tail. The black cat was very upset, turned its head and barked, and the 8 swishes came out, twisting their thin bodies to help the black cat create momentum. This evil thing is very unusual. Pandeo tried many methods, but he couldn't dispel it. If he left it alone, he was worried that it would cause a catastrophe, so he wanted to bring it back to the mountain and train him again. Tang Tang frowned and said, why are you a Taoist priest? Do you want to bully even a kitten? Miao Qing smiled, Pandeo doesn't bully it, and will take good care of it when I bring it back to Baiyun Temple. Who are you lying to? You Taoist priests are all vegetarians, how can you have good fish and meat for it to eat? Tang Tang didn't believe it. Miao Qing replied, it just so happens that the rats in the temple have been making a lot of trouble these years, and they are all fat, so there must be no shortage of meat from them. Tang Tang pouted. Gu Liang also felt that this was appropriate. To talk about the 8 dangers, in fact, as long as you are fed enough and take regular walks, not only will it not hurt people, but it will help the host and act according to the will of the host. But 8 things are not dangerous, If this cat is sold by Huang Legui to someone with evil intentions, there will definitely be endless troubles. It is the most appropriate way to bring Miaoqing back to the Taoist temple, take care of her and control her at the same time. Gu Liang persuaded Tang Tang, didn't you dislike the smelly and messy chicken and duck pens in the garden before? Ask the Taoist priest to bring Batiao back, and we will dismantle the chicken and duck pens, okay? Tang Tang pursed her lips and hesitated. I promised it that I would raise it for a lifetime. Buddha of infinite life, forgive me for speaking bluntly, compared with yours, its life may be too long. Miaoqing shook her head with a smile, I can't keep it for a lifetime. Tang Tang was suspicious, and tilted her head to look at her cat, will it live that long? No matter what, Miaoqing finally convinced Tang Tang. He left the address of Byungwan, and said that if Tang Tang was worried, he could visit her cat at any time. Before leaving, he told me again that he must copy the scriptures and chant the scriptures every day, so as to resolve the hostility one day earlier, so that he can live a peaceful life one day earlier. In other words, Tang Tang is now in a trouble-making physique. Wherever he goes, accidents happen. The writing style of this book is long and smooth, suitable for mature friends. Bao Baozai Rebirth 90 Honey Sweet Wife, Keywords, Chronology, Special Effects Makeup Artist, Inspirational, Sweet Pet. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1564. Gu Liang arranged a separate room for Tang Tang, with a complete set of classical furniture, pens, ink, paper and inkstones on the table. The whole room is clean and elegant. The only decorations are a pair of calligraphy and paintings on the wall, and a pot of asparagus on the corner of the table. This is a room prepared for scripture copying, the simpler and quieter it is, the better. It was rare for Tang Tang not to complain. Although she looked reluctant, when Gu Liang taught her to write, she still learned it honestly. It was really embarrassing for her to copy the scriptures with a brush, not to mention crooked, and she didn't know many rare words. But no matter how difficult it is to write. During the day, when Gu Liang went to the company, Tang Tang stayed at home and copied scriptures. I copied a lot, and occasionally I could recite a few sentences. Sometimes it is a dead soul who is refined, immortalized into a human being, reborn and saved, and survives forever. Sometimes it is a kind heart, neither killing nor harming, neither envious nor jealous, neither adultery nor stealing, neither greedy nor lustful. In short, although she didn't understand many meanings between the lines, she could feel that she was trying to persuade others to be kind. While copying, she sighed, it would be great if I were a foreign evil god, the English version would be much easier to copy. A few days before the Chinese New Year, Gu's group held an annual meeting, and Gu Liang, as the head of the family, had to attend. The owner's wife should also participate, but Tang Tang didn't want to go and insisted on staying at home. It's not that she doesn't like to join in the fun, but that the gauze was removed recently, and a new layer of red flesh grew on her bald wrist, which was extremely ugly. Tang Tang just glanced at it, and wanted to wrap up that place again, so that it would never be seen by others, so how could she wear a gown with bare arms to attend the annual meeting where there are so many beauties? If she is compared to others, she will be furious. On the day of the annual meeting, Tang Tang stayed at home to copy scriptures, while Gu Liang went alone. Almost all of Gu Liang's brothers and sisters, in-laws, friends, and business partners were able to arrive. Gu's mother had long been dissatisfied with Tang Tang's waywardness, and now seeing that she didn't even attend such an important annual meeting, she became even more unhappy, and whispered in Gu Liang's ear. I married her because she was able to give birth. It's been more than half a year now, and I haven't seen any movement in her stomach. Everything that is knowledgeable, gentle, and virtuous is a lie, disrespecting the elders, disobedient, and not coming to the annual meeting. What a shame. Lawless. Gu Liang said, She is not feeling well today, so I let her rest at home. It doesn't matter if she comes or not on this occasion. Why doesn't it matter? Gu's mother stared. If you don't care for your husband and children, and don't go out to socialize, why marry her? Gu Liang glanced at her lightly. Gu's mother's face froze slightly, and she explained worriedly, Mom didn't mean to interfere with your life, but she looks like this, it's too much, whose daughter-in-law is like her? Don't worry about this matter, I know it well, Gu Liang said calmly. If you have time, why don't you take care of Gu Yan? He is not young anymore, it's time to take care of him. Mentioning that unscrupulous little son made Gu's mother even more worried and sighed repeatedly. Say Cao Cao, Cao Cao is here. Holding a wine glass, Gu Yan led a woman over to say hello. Hey, brother. Look who's here. The woman beside him was tall, with exquisite eyebrows, very dignified and elegant. Before Gu Liang could respond, Mother Gu said in surprise, isn't this Yaitang? It's getting more and more beautiful. I remember you kids always liked to play together when you were young. Gu Liang asked, didn't your husband come with you? Mother Gu was taken aback when she heard the words, is Yaitang married? Lu Yaitang smiled lightly, Auntie, I got married abroad and it has been several years. Yes, I remember you married that great painter Gu Shao asked, it seems to be called Mo Sang. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1565. As soon as she heard that the other party was already married, Gu's mother lost the interest in chatting, and after a few casual greetings, she dragged Gu Yan to another place to find a suitable partner for her son. Holding the wine, Lu Yaitang lightly clinked glasses with Gu Liang. I haven't congratulated you yet, welcome to the world of married people. Gu Liang smiled, thank you. After the two drank, Lu Yaitang's eyes swept over his slender fingers holding the wine glass. I heard that your hand was injured a while ago and you kept wearing gloves. Is it better now? Gu Liang glanced down, well, it's ready. He changed his hand to hold the wine glass, freeing his right hand to move his wrist slightly so that Lu Yaitang could see clearly. A trace of surprise flashed in her eyes, but it was quickly covered up by a smile. You have to keep the dragon body safe, Lu Yaitang joked, otherwise, your courtiers will panic and cause some trouble. Physical health is of course the most important thing. Gu Liang smiled lightly, calmly, the last time I saw you was still abroad, where is your husband? Why didn't you come together today? He went out to find inspiration, and he may be in a certain country now. Lu Yaitang lifted his chin slightly, took a sip of wine, and continued casually, they are all like this. They don't hear from each other as soon as they go out, and they don't care if their family members are worried. The last time I went home was half a year ago, and my whole body was dirty. He looked sloppy like a homeless man. I almost didn't recognize it was my husband. I asked him what's the matter, but he didn't respond, he just entered the house and started creating. Gu Liang smiled and said, aren't you an artist yourself? Heh. Lu Yaitang laughed at himself. He said that after I got married, I became vulgar, and my works didn't have the same aura as before. I'm probably just an ordinary artist in front of the master. Forget it, let's talk about this. It's not interesting, let's talk about you. Lu Yaitang asked him, are you still used to life after marriage? Gu Liang thought of Tang Tang's resentful little face when he sent him out, and the corner of his mouth couldn't help smiling. It's okay. Lu Yaitang laughed and said, it's not easy. I remember that you were very picky about this before. You don't want people who are not beautiful, people who are not smart, and people who are not talented. If a beautiful woman pursues you, you think that people are not smart enough. Depth, he refused. Everyone said at the time that you were going to be a bachelor for the rest of your life. When mentioning the past, Gu Liang couldn't help laughing. Am I so picky? Absolutely. After chatting for a while, other people came to say hello to Gu Liang, and Lu Yitong left in time. Before leaving, he said, "I prepared a wedding gift for you before, but I was abroad at the time, so it was not convenient for you to give it to you. If you are free these few days, I will send it to your home. Let me visit your new house by the way." Gu Liang nodded, "Don't worry, call me when the time comes, and I'll send someone to pick you up." Not long after Lu Yitong left, Gu Yan leaned over and asked, "Brother, what are you talking about?" Gu Liang looked at him strangely. "It's rare, you also started to care about the company's affairs. Just now Director Zhou mentioned next year's film festival project." Gu Yan winked, "I'm asking what you and Lu Yitong talked about." "Chat casually," Gu Liang said indifferently. "Why are you asking this?" "I feel like she hasn't given up on you yet." Gu Shao's face showed the excitement of gossip. Her husband disappears at every turn, and everyone is spreading rumors that the two will divorce sooner or later. Gu Liang laughed, "Whether she divorces or not, what does it have to do with me? Don't spread rumors outside." "How can this be a rumor? She liked you in the first place," Gu Yan said. "At the beginning you said you liked talented girls, but she immediately went to learn painting and held an art exhibition. This is the power of love." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1566. She went to learn painting because of her artistic talent, and she went to hold art exhibitions because of her mentor's support. None of this has anything to do with me, Gu Liang said. If this kind of word spreads, people will at most say that I am Gu Liang. Charming, but she's a married woman and you're going to get her in trouble. Gu Yan suddenly felt bored. He just wanted to come and gossip, but he was scolded instead. "Oh, I got it, I won't gossip around." Gu Shao waved his hand impatiently, turned around and went to drink with his friends. Gu Liang looked indifferently into the distance. Lu Yitong was chatting with other guests. She was smiling and well-groomed. She would neither make people feel difficult to get along with, nor would she make people feel overly tactful. Distance. It was like this when I was a child, but now that I have grown up, I can only say that it is more proficient. In fact, it is very easy to make friends with this kind of person, because she will never embarrass you, and even when you are embarrassed, she will kindly help you out and make sure everyone is in a safe and non-embarrassing social position. But Gu Liang doesn't like her. Because this kind of subtle and silent control of moistening things can better reflect a person's desire for control and ambition. Gu Yan just said that Lu Yitong likes Gu Liang. In fact, it's not like liking, it's just that among a group of boys and girls playmates, there happens to be one who is particularly good, whom she thinks is a good match for her, so she makes a little show of favor, uses some suggestive words, or misleading behaviors to seduce the boy, confessed to himself and admired himself. Gu Liang used to be one of the boys who were tempted, but he was really not interested in her. When we were young, everyone used to put the best boy and the most beautiful girl together. If there was him in a topic, she must be mentioned, and vice versa. Slowly, they became a recognized couple, but in fact, they had nothing to do with each other. Gu Liang withdrew his gaze, remembering the way Lu Yitong was staring at his right hand just now. I really didn't expect. There was an intersection between him and her because of this incident. After the annual meeting, Gu Liang called Tong Wu and asked him to check on Lu Yitong's husband. There is definitely something wrong with that painting. It is impossible for Lu Yitong's husband to be safe and sound, maybe something happened already. But if something really happened, why did Lu Yitong hide it? If these questions cannot be clarified, Gu Liang's heart will always be blocked by something, and he will not be happy. If he hadn't met Tang Tang, he might have died already. Even if he didn't die, he might turn into a half-human, half-demon monster. And all of this was caused by Lu Yitong and her husband. If Lu Yitong designed him on purpose, he would definitely not spare her. But what if it was an accident? Gu Liang returned home with a lot of worries, and didn't go back to his room immediately, but sat alone in the living room, meditating for a long time. Tang Tang had already heard the sound of the car. She went downstairs quietly, then held her breath, and approached gently step by step. Finally, she came behind him. She suppressed a titter, ready to cover Gu Liang's eyes with her hands. He stretched out his hand, but there was only one. Tang Tang was stunned for 2 seconds, and then felt disappointed. She forgot again. Even after more than a month, she is still not used to living with one hand. Losing interest in playing around, Tang Tang walked around the sofa with her mouth pursed, walked to the front of the sofa, sat down without saying a word, and squeezed into Gu Liang's arms. Gu Liang didn't say anything. He was thinking about something while stroking the hair on her cheek. Tang Tang asked him sullenly, "Gu Liang, do you think this is retribution?" "Huh?" Gu Liang was slightly taken aback. "I wanted to chop off your hand before, but I didn't succeed, and my own hand was gone instead." Tang Tang rubbed against his arms depressedly. "This must be retribution. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again." Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1567. How can this be retribution? Gu Liang touched her cheek and thought for a while. This should be marriage. Tang Tang looked up at him. What is marriage? Gu Liang said, it's the fate of marriage, the chance for two people to get together. You healed my hand, and I will help you heal it. I promise it will be as useful and beautiful as the real hand. In the future, I am old, how interesting it is to recall. You cure my right hand, and I cure your left hand. Tang Tang laughed when he heard the words. Yes, it sounds like a good match. Her mood suddenly became clear, and she was not depressed at all. Gu Liang said to her again, someone will come to measure your size tomorrow, and you will need it when making prosthetics. Will it be exactly the same as the real hand? Tang Tang was excited. It's just a temporary silicone model, the one that can't move, Gu Liang explained. The real prosthesis can only be installed after the wound has healed for 3 months. At that time, I will take you to Germany. There is a kind of bionic manipulator. The prosthetic limb can be connected to the nerves and act like a part of your own body. Gu Liang, you are the best to me. Tang Tang slumped into his arms with a smile. I like Gu Liang the most. Gu Liang smiled and imitated her tone. Well, I also like Tang Tang the most. 2 days later, Lu Yitong really came. She didn't ask Gu Liang to send someone to pick her up, but instead invited Gu Yan, and the two of them came to visit together. The gift was a meticulous painting nearly 2 meters long. Gu Liang saw her seal on the bottom of the painting, and said, I'm afraid it will take you several months to work on such a painting, right? The gift for the patriarch of the Gu family, how can you be careless? Lu Yitong laughed. Tang Tang looked at the painting curiously, with novelty in her eyes. Looking at it, her face was almost stuck to it, but Gu Liang pulled her away by the collar. Come so close, do you want to lick it? Gu Liang rubbed Tang Tang's head. Lu Yitong was slightly taken aback. In my impression, when Gu Liang gets along with women, he only reveals such a teasing tone when the relationship is very close, but for ordinary female friends, his attitude is usually a gentleman and polite, with a touch of alienation. The thought just passed by. Ruanzimo is Gu Liang's wife, so the relationship is naturally very close, but she was the one who made all the fuss. Tang Tang said to Gu Liang, I just wonder how such a thin line is drawn, it feels thinner than my hair. Well, fine brushwork is very delicate and requires a lot of energy from the artist. Gu Liang looked at Lu Yitong with a smile. Thank you, we like the gift very much. Gu Liang, I want to hang it up. Tang Tang said, hang it up in my study. The study room where she copied the scriptures was antique and very suitable for hanging such paintings. Gu Liang went upstairs with the painting, and invited Lu Yitong up to show her around his new house. I have seen a lot of mansions, but they are basically the same, but Gu Liang has a lounge with a very elegant design, which looks like a small coffee roasting workshop. Gu Liang collects almost all the famous coffee varieties in the market. Tang Tang thinks the coffee is bitter, so she doesn't come to this room very often, and whenever she goes upstairs, she drags Gu Liang to hang pictures happily. Lu Yitong and Gu Yan sat in the lounge for a while, and heard crisp laughter from the study. Tang Tang laughed at Gu Liang without hesitation, ha ha ha. You got it wrong. Gu Yan smiled awkwardly, my brother and my sister-in-law are very close, he he. It's a newlywed, I'm sure you and I will be together. Lu Yitong stood up with a smile, let's go and have a look, maybe we can help. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1568. When Lu Yitong and Gu Yan walked to the study room, the painting had already been hung up. Although the study room is furnished simply, the bookcases, tables and chairs are all good things, and another calligraphy and painting on the wall is also made by a famous artist. Lu Yitong thought to himself, Gu Liang still hasn't changed, he likes this kind of talented woman. From the looks of it, this Ruanzimo should be about the same as her. He studied traditional Chinese painting or calligraphy, that's not right. Meticulous brushwork is also called fine brushwork. The painting method is neat and meticulous, and it is normal to use fine brushwork. As Lu Yitong thought about it, he glanced at the calligraphy exercises on the table from the corner of the eye, a little inquiring. However, after just one glance, she was stunned. Lu Yitong almost thought that he had read it wrong, but when he looked carefully, he was even more shocked. What kind of calligraphy is this? It is clearly a primary school student's nonsense painting. Oh, sister-in-law, have you started to practice brush calligraphy recently? Second young master Gu also saw the paper on the table, and said with a playful smile, it's quite artistic, I didn't recognize a single word. Tang Tang pursed her lips when she heard the words, and was a little unhappy. She could tell that this was an ugly word for her. Gu Liang pulled a few pieces of white paper and covered Tang Tang's work, this is her self-created body, you don't need to recognize it. It's all right, let's go out. He pushed Gu Yan out of the study, and Lu Yitong couldn't stay in there any longer, looked at Tang Tang with complicated eyes, then turned and went out. Seeing that they had all left, Tang Tang uncovered the white paper, picked up her work, frowned and muttered, I wrote Gu Liang's name, is it hard to recognize? But Gu Liang obviously praised her for her progress. Gu Liang led Lu Yitong to have a general tour of the house, and finally returned to his special coffee lounge. When three people get together, it is inevitable that they will talk about interesting things in their youth, and then feel the changes of the years. Such topics can always easily narrow the distance between each other. Lu Yitong mentioned that he will hold a party at home in the next year, similar to an art salon, where everyone gathers to talk about the past and the present, and appreciate artworks. Gu Yan was the first to shake his head, and said with a smile, Yitong, please forgive me, I can't play this kind of thing, let my brother do it. Lu Yitong looked at Gu Liang. Gu Liang took a sip of coffee and asked, are there many people going? Not many, Lu Yitong said with a smile, if there are too many people, wouldn't it be like a conference? I only invited a few close friends, and I haven't seen them for many years. It's rare to get together. Gu Liang nodded, with a gentle smile, it's true that we haven't met for many years, you can call me when the time comes. After chatting for a while, for some reason, the topic brought up Gu Liang's previous illness. Gu Yan also knew about this, and said, I was also surprised at the time, and I didn't understand why I was wearing gloves all the time. Later, Manager Tong said that my brother had a rash on his skin and was prone to allergies, so he needed to wear gloves during the treatment. Lu Yitong couldn't help asking, how was it cured later? Gu Liang raised his eyes and looked at her. In fact, his expression was not that bad, but Lu Yitong was a little guilty, and his smile was a little stiff, and he said, "What? Is it convenient to say, sorry, I'm just curious?" "It's not inconvenient," Gu Liang smiled lightly, "it's just a little unexpected. I didn't expect you to be interested in this aspect." Gu Yan laughed and interjected, "Brother, Yitong also cares about you. If it's someone else's skin rash, she won't bother to ask." Lu Yitong pursed her lips and smiled, but said nothing. "I happened to meet a wandering Taoist priest who sold me a pack of medicine, saying it could cure all diseases." Gu Liang made random nonsense. "At that time, I just wanted to try it casually, but I didn't expect it to be cured." After he finished speaking, he looked at Lu Yitong. "Have any of your friends suffered from this kind of disease?" "Unfortunately, I have already finished the medicine, otherwise maybe it can help." Lu Yitong's face turned pale, and his smile was even more forced. "No. I was just asking casually." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1569. Lu Yitong didn't stay at Gu Liang's house for too long. After sitting for a while, she left with Gu Yan. She has always been reserved, and she has a noble but not arrogant image outside, and she will never make people feel overly enthusiastic. This kind of restraint is not something that everyone can possess, especially when she clearly wanted to know how Gu Liang recovered from illness, but could only patiently insinuate herself. It seemed that she could hold her breath even more. Gu Liang can already conclude in his heart that something must have happened to Lu Yitong's husband, Mo Sang. As for why he concealed the news of her husband's death, it is difficult for Gu Liang to speculate for the time being. Mo Zhang's parents have long passed away, and he has no children under his knees. If he dies, all the inheritance will belong to Lu Yitong. The most precious ones are Mo Zhang's paintings, which will increase in value rapidly. Therefore, Gu Liang really couldn't understand why Lu Yitong wanted to hide it, unless Mo Zhang's death was related to her. Gu Liang opened the door of the study room, and Tang Tang was sitting at the desk, writing every stroke carefully. "That woman just now, did you see any problems?" Gu Liang considered the words. Tang Tang looked up at him with a puzzled expression. "That woman? What could be wrong with her? Did you see any evil in her?" "Something similar to what I used to have on my arm," Gu Liang asked her. Tang Tang opened her eyes slightly. "No." Gu Liang frowned, concentrating on thinking. "This is a bit unreasonable. They are obviously a couple who get along day and night, so why did the husband have an accident, but the wife is safe and sound?" Seeing that he didn't speak, Tang Tang thought he didn't believe it, and said again, "I really didn't see it. That thing is so evil. If she had it on her body, I would definitely be able to tell it at a glance." Gu Liang came back to his senses, smiled and patted her head. "Forget it if you don't have one." He just wanted to figure it out too much. He was a little obsessed. At night, Gu Liang took out the painting of Kalanga again, and looked at the elephant and the little men holding weapons. Tang Tang said that this painting is very clean and there is nothing wrong with it. Could it be that he had made a mistake? Maybe the evil thing on his arm has nothing to do with the couple. Maybe Mo Zhang really went out to find inspiration. Maybe Lu Yitong is really just curious. Maybe all of this is just him being suspicious. Gu Liang was a little dazed thinking about it. He took a deep breath, secretly admonishing himself to be normal. "It's really because this matter has been backlogged in my heart for too long, because there is no answer, so I never brought it up, and now I suddenly saw Lu Yitong, and the emotions accumulated in the past flooded my heart like a river. Think about the past 2 years, he has been looking for mages and witch doctors all over the world, experienced hope and disappointment countless times, watched the thing spread and grow in his body, the helplessness and resentment, but he had to endure everything, pretending to have nothing to do with the family business, arranging his own affairs, that kind of panic, that kind of loneliness, that kind of lack of words, really, it is indescribable despair. Tang Tang turned over on the bed, feeling that the seat beside her was empty, and sat up in a daze. Gu Liang. She murmured his name. Gu Liang regained his senses, returned to the bed, and hugged Tang Tang into his arms. Fortunately, he is fine. Go to Lu Yitong's house in a few years, maybe there will be an answer. In any case, this matter must be settled. The girl in his arms breathed long and lightly. Gu Liang lowered his head and pressed her forehead, and closed his eyes. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1570. The new year of the Gu family was very boring. Because there are too many people and everyone has different ideas, such a large group of people gathered together for a reunion dinner, it is really not very intimate, it is just a custom established by the Gu family from generation to generation, like a ceremony. As the head of the family, Gu Liang naturally couldn't leave the banquet to deal with all kinds of distant relatives and neighbors. Elderly relatives always want to show off their elders in front of him, and they just get by on weekdays, but they have to show some kindness during the New Year and holidays, and listen to these people's nonsense patiently. Gu Liang's mother doesn't like Chinese New Year either. Because she can only sit in the most partial position with Mrs. Gu's mistresses, just like a concubine's room in the old days, even if her son is now the head of the family, she still has no status and cannot sit in the position of Mrs. Gu. As for Tang Tang, it was even more boring. Gu Liang was clearly sitting next to her, but he didn't have time to accompany her at all. He sat here dryly for a long time, not only failed to chat a few words, but even helped her pick up the food once. This kind of boring lasted until 9 o'clock in the evening before they left the old house by car. Tang Tang complained in the car, I don't want to celebrate the New Year anymore. It's meaningless at all. They're all people I don't know. I still have to come over to laugh and talk. Gu's mother was also unhappy at first, but when she heard her complain, she couldn't help snorting, and said, in 7 or 8 days, there will be a spring banquet. The hostess of every family will do it. I'll learn a little bit, and next year I'll take care of it for you. I'm not going, I'm bored to death, Tang Tang replied with curled lips. Not going here, not going there, what on earth do you want to do? You're not socializing anymore? Are you not socializing? Gu's mother became angry when she heard Tang Tang's words. Gu Liang opened his mouth, Mom, there is no need to hold a big spring banquet this year. Zimo and I may go to other places. Gu's mother was slightly stunned, going to another place. Where are you going? I don't know yet, Gu Liang said lightly, let's see when the time comes. Hearing his uncertain tone, it seemed that he was going to travel, but he didn't think about what attractions to visit. Gu's mother opened her mouth to ask him when he was going to leave, couldn't she wait until the spring banquet was over before going? Thinking about the temper of the eldest son, if he didn't want to talk about it, it would be useless to ask, so Mother Gu didn't bother to ask. New Year's Eve passed peacefully like this. After the New Year, people began to come to pay Gu Liang New Year's greetings one after another. Tongwu also came down to pay New Year's greetings on behalf of a group of people, and brought 2 amulets. It is said that he summoned 399 brothers, each of whom went to the temple to kowtow, and kowtowed 399 times before he obtained these 2 amulets. After returning from the cruise ship, Gu Liang's subordinates have greatly changed their views on Tang Tang, so these 2 amulets are for Gu Liang and Tang Tang. The talisman is yellow talisman paper folded into a triangle. Tang Tang took it in his hand and pinched it, but he didn't feel anything special. Taking advantage of Gu Liang's inattention, he secretly took it apart and took a look. There were some ghostly symbols on the yellow paper. She frowned, looked sideways, vertically, and obliquely, but she couldn't recognize what was written on it no matter how she looked. There is actually someone who writes uglier than me. Hearing her muttering, Gu Liang smiled and shook his head, took out the paper in her hand, and folded it again. Don't break it, it's for safety. Tang Tang stared and asked, it's just a piece of paper, can it be safe? Gu Liang said, this paper contains everyone's blessings for you, and the meaning is different. Tang Tang thought for a while, then found a servant, and asked the servant to buy her a dozen of these yellow papers.